Alex Answer here. It is March 2nd, 2017, and as expected, this is certainly no surprise to me, things are moving very, very quickly with the selection of Donald Trump. We've seen so many things take place, so much manufactured civil unrest, the controlled chaos. We can see so many people sticking to their talking points that are on the extreme left and right. For some of you that are as independent as I, and you haven't picked a side, you didn't have a dog in the last fight, you didn't lose anything, you didn't win anything. If you're anything like I, you've seen the madness. You've seen the mind control. You've probably noticed as well that both the left and the right, they're not looking at what's at the top of the pyramid. They're not looking at the real forces of control that control this system. And they exist. It's not a conspiracy theory, but it is a conspiracy theory that has no basis in fact to say that it is all controlled by Hillary Clinton and George Soros. That's bullshit. And that's the psyops with the aid of Alex Jones and other provocateurs. They have convinced so many that it's only those two after years of others being exposed for their wrongdoings in our political system. And so the left, the controlled left, they're seeing Donald Trump do things that they didn't have a problem with Obama doing in some cases. And with those that support Donald Trump, they're getting behind someone that has rallied the masses behind counterfeit promises of change, progress of some type, embettering America in some way, because the packaging, the person, the way they look, the way they sound, their power of suggestion, which is mind control, power of suggestion. Barack Obama, we saw the power of suggestion. We saw the Messiah-like nature behind his rise. We also saw it with Bush. And then we see Donald Trump. And people literally thanking God for Donald Trump. And Alex Jones with his own jihad, saying, quote, I would die for Donald Trump. Meanwhile, you think the mainstream media, including CNN, is really criticizing Donald Trump? You think that's really criticizing Donald Trump? Leaked tapes? Kelly Conway? Feet up on the couch? You think those are real confrontations? Supposed investigation into Russian ties. See, they've created all this reality TV spin, and they think the media is going after Donald Trump. The media isn't going after Donald Trump. This has probably been planned by Trump and his cronies years to decades ago. And what was that about the hot mic? Trump being caught saying he hasn't spoken to Russia in 10 years? Oh yeah, that's an accident. Trump himself is going to play a role in the conspiracy to bring down his own image, because he is there not just to bring down, but to kick down by force. Just kick down real quick and real brutal like a predator, like a sexual predator. We see Donald Trump selected to carry out the role that was designated for someone, whether they picked Trump way back when, or whether it was picked for someone else, or whether it was uncertain who would be their pick. They have been planning for events to be where they are now for a certain period in time. They've told you for years that they would be prepped for World War III, the nations of Asia. Well prepped after 2020. So, it's not crystal ball reading. Sure, there's a little bit of intuition here. Both facts and figures and documents. We can see the West and the East preparing for this conflict for a long, long time. Enter Donald Trump. He promises accountability with the Federal Reserve. He's promoted by Alex Jones and others as a person that was against the war in Iraq. No. He was against it being a failure, being done a certain way. He believes, like others, like Obama, well, I can sit there and criticize it, but now that we're there, we got to increase our troops that are there. Not pull the troops back from Afghanistan. And you don't have to necessarily be a 9/11 truther to go, hey, you know what? There's a lot of people that obviously weren't involved in 9/11, even if you believe in the official story of 9/11. Even if you believe in that, that's fine. I may disagree with certain things that you may believe, but even if you believe with that particular idea, there are so many people around the world that have been demonized as part of this radical movement, radical Islam. And so where is Donald Trump if he's a humanitarian with regards to the victims of war and the innocents that have been slaughtered? What is his real plan for the refugees in the safe areas? Are we talking concentration camps? You know, in Austria, those that are called the rejected refugees, they're about to lose their food and shelter. So it's like land destabilized, and then all of a sudden you have massive immigration to Europe, then you have a backlash. It becomes like a worldwide movement, white genocide becoming a political meme, undoing quite a bit of progress that aspects of our Western societies and others actually have made. There are sinister forces working to undo the progress that has been made, and the Trump support base, for the most part, seems to be the vehicle for that, while the controlled left provides the chaos on the other side, with the hate speech being used against future Americans, even independents. Hate speech going on right now. Things that some, but not all, some Trump supporters are doing. And then you have some behaviors of a group of protesters. Not all protesters. So whether we're looking at extreme left or right, whether you see it as extreme or moderate, we see signs of mental illness. And that's why throughout my whole life I've been politically independent. I've also been independent with regards to a lot of other views and absorb knowledge from different schools of thought, if you will, whatever the subject is, whatever the focus is of our discussion. I've never been a person that follows a dogmatic approach. And so naturally, when I look at the global order, when I look at the true globalism, I see what I believe that I see. And I don't let anybody else's propaganda, I don't let anybody else's views contaminate my views. I know what I believe. I know what I feel when I look at Putin's eyes. I know what I feel when I look at the masses worshiping Trump and thinking what they think is God for this person that I feel will continue to take us on the path. There's concerns about a sovereign debt collapse that Trump could trigger based on his decisions, based on his spending. How do you like those numbers? 54 billion. Military increased spending. Yeah, I've lost my mind. Yeah, I've really lost it for not getting behind and humping the Trump. How many are going to come back to me and apologize? Zero, because that's how much we've fallen. I can show you facts. I can show you figures. We can go over the fact that he is Bush 3.0, Obama 2.0, as phony as a $3 bill, as they say. But yet, for some reason, there is a demographic of our society that is sold on this individual, on this entity. Frankly, I don't know what to call him. I don't waste my time with the soap opera. I don't waste my time playing the tapes of the supposed leaks, and there are so many. I could see in the Trump opposition movement just spin, just a soap opera. And then people that aren't, they may be intelligent, but they may have developed a closed mind. See, they're looking at any opposition to Donald Trump as just straight up lip-tard nonsense. And they're forgetting that's not all straight up lip-tard nonsense. And I'm going to play a clip here of a certain individual who is a Trump supporter that I respect. He sounds like he's starting to really question things. And I'm really liking what I'm hearing from him, and I want to play it for you. But before we do that, North Korea, yes. Trump is making some statements about North Korea. He said recently, well, They're not going to be able to do it. They're not going to successfully test their weapon that's capable of hitting the United States. And then they do. And then what I said to you was that just recently, a few weeks ago, Rumsfeld played a role in North Korea's nuclear weapons development, and so has China. All the world's a stage. And we are merely players, if you will. And so when we look at this movie, we got to look at those that are projecting the image on the screen, that are projecting the wars, and creating the wars, and funding the wars. We all need to look a lot closer at this web of control, okay, and see beyond this illusion of West Bloc New World Order and Russia Bloc New World Order to counter West. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. As far as I'm concerned, Russia and the United States have worked for years to destabilize the Middle East, playing both sides. Syria is a recent example. Afghanistan is an older one. Let's go ahead and hear just a few moments and I think that, what happens with a lot of people is they get really passionate about their political position. And some people aren't willing to take a look at what's really going on, to keep their ear to the newswire. And it takes a bigger person, okay, to stay true to themselves. They may have a political leaning, but to stay true to themselves. If someone's anti-war and anti-Federal Reserve, if Trump is not going to deliver on his promises, even though they like the other stuff and his immigration policy, then one true to themselves will not look away. Will not there's going to be few. Because of the nature of consciousness, just like those that supported Obama, there were very few to none. They came to me later after the fact, said, Alex, you were right about Obama. Okay. With Bush, they made it popular to not like Bush because they paved the way for Obama. They also made it very popular to not like Obama and the alternative media, in my opinion. I'm not trying to disrespect. My opinion, to pave the way for Trump, who has every step of the way reminded me of when Obama for the other side, as difficult as it is for people to hear. America we can believe in. Change we can believe in. Or rather, make America great again. Change we can believe in. And you go back and forth, and then it's just a red state, blue state, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. So let's go ahead and hear this clip. We're going to skip 15 minutes in.
But I'm watching very closely. And you better put a stop to those two items that I see right there, because it is a giant
We actually have to go back a minute.
I'm trying to think about how to phrase this. Well, the result was over 500,000 innocent civilians dead. So great job, Barack. Yeah, wonderful work. Over 500,000 men, women, and children slaughtered because of you. So again, it begs the question again, Trump, are you going to end the criminal Federal Reserve? Will you criminalize it? Will you exterminate it from this planet? Or will you continue the same gangbang? And I have a sneaking suspicion we all know what's going to happen. Will you end the wars overseas? Will you stop the bloodshed in Syria?
This is a Trump supporter.
Or will you help ignite it?
One I respect.
And propel it further. Now look, I'm giving Donald Trump a shot in these areas. Again, I am pro-Donald Trump. But I'm watching very closely. And you better put a stop to those two items that I see right there, because it is a giant humanitarian crisis. Financially and also regarding human life. And I think we know the answer. I think we need to be humbled Mr. President. We need to show humility. You're obviously showing strength. But I think the American people can also see your weaknesses. Just like we are all weak, myself included, and we are all human. And when I see Donald Trump, I see a man whose God is money and ego. And all the general population has to do is wade through your countless pictures of that giant ego and your golden palaces and your golden toilets.
Well, we don't even know what's in the tax returns, do we? Really?
To understand what your weaknesses are. My message is, and we can even give him the benefit of the doubt, that he recognizes his own weaknesses and he rises to the challenge, humbled in these challenges, humbled by God. And the very foundational principles of this constitutional republic, and shows that humility and is humbled by everything.
Okay, now let's hear another clip. We're going for 24 minutes in.
Great. In that storm. People think that this is normal. They think that a collapse at such a scale where every major global financial institution on the face of the planet went to zero, and George W. Bush came on camera warning of impending doom, and congressmen were told that there would be martial law in the streets. And then since that time, after the bailouts, because it was all engineered in the first place and they were just robbing you, that's essentially what they were doing, and it yo-yo's back, that somehow everything's normal now. Oh yeah, everything's great. And they think it's not going to happen again. And they think, even if it does happen again, it'll immediately yo-yo back. Yeah, the yo-yo might take decades. Like it took
the stock market
over a
with its
decade,
Dow hitting over 21,000.
And the crash in 29
Incredible
took
high,
over a decade,
if not a
and
record
World War
high.
II, and millions of people slaughtered as a byproduct for us to fully recover. And it took a lot of hunger on the streets. It took poverty. It took a lot of hustling. I'm sure many of your family tree is, and mine, my grandparents, my grandparents that lived through the Depression, which the whole goal was to put food on the table and to feed their family. These things can happen again, and it can get really, really bad.
Oh, they made it 422% more expensive to get out of
cheering like we did.
Give up your U.S. citizenship.
In that type of world, in that type of Mad Max environment, and does Donald Trump have what it takes to lead in the face of that fire? I actually think he does. But I also know his weaknesses. It's plain for the world to see.
Okay, and then we go to another video. And he's seen something he doesn't like with regards to the White House pivot on Asia, in particular North Korea.
I clicked the public button and not unlisted. It's a very important report, but we are late night here at AMTV Studios, March 1st, 2017. It's about 10 o'clock Arizona time, 2 hours ahead if you're on the East Coast, you're an hour behind if you're Pacific time. White House is considering options of force, military escalation on Kim Jong-un's North Korea. This is an article from the Wall Street Journal. You can see this right here. There's a picture of Kim Jong-un. The strategy review comes as recent events have strained stability in Asia, and this is breaking. And I talked about this earlier. There's so much optimism. I think there's good reason for that, but there's so much euphoria. With the Dow at 21,000, with Donald Trump's speech last night, I cannot help but think this is a blow off top. And there are so many problems, so many military problems, as is the case with North Korea, with Syria, with the countries that the United States has been involved with for how long now? Decades? Not just post-September 11th, but even prior to that. Breaking, an internal White House review of strategy on North Korea includes the possibility of military force or regime change to blunt the country's nuclear weapons threat. People familiar with the process said, a prospect that has some U.S. allies in the region on edge. While President Donald Trump has taken steps to reassure allies that he won't abandon agreements that have underpinned decades of U.S. policy on Asia, his
shaking in
pledge
their boots
that North Korea will be stopped from ever testing an intercontinental ballistic missile, coupled with the 2-week-old strategy review, has some leaders bracing for a shift in American policy. The U.S. review comes as recent events have strained regional stability. Last month, North Korea launched military dimensions. This is breaking now. Again, here's the article. You can see the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
White House options
all right,
for North Korea include use of military force. Also, supplemental links.
He's concerned, and for good reason. And the reason I bring that up, even some of those that support Donald Trump and the platform that he campaigned on, and this is starting to feel familiar, it already was familiar for myself. I can see signs that some people are what I would call waking up. Because in this election, we didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice. No one had a choice. Okay. And I'm joking, but I'm also feeling fairly serious when I say Hillary and the Donald are probably fucking. I mean, we all know that they're powerful people, and this is what they do. How did Donald Trump get this squeaky clean reputation? He doesn't have that. He's said enough, and he's done enough, and he's behaved in a certain way, you know, and he's easily comparable, of course, to Biff from Back to the Future, which many people believe accurately as predicted this election. You know, Biff Casino, Trump Casino. Is Biff a moral guy? Is Trump known to be a moral guy? So based on what was already known about Donald Trump, why is it assumed by so many that he's the last one to say being involved in some of those things that have allegedly been uncovered regarding children? And I don't necessarily refer to the one particular word that could alert the bots, some believe, or if you hashtag it. I think there's other things going on that are on the radar. I think it's foolish, though, for people to underestimate the power of the intelligence agencies to create a whole lot of spin on the internet and to use key figures to spin things in a certain direction to make the election look a certain way. That the globalists are on one side and only on one side. On the other side, we have the crusader against those globalists who's going to stop the wars and end the Fed and allow the states to have rights and not use eminent domain for a pipeline. You know, we've got concerns about Jeff Sessions regarding his statements about marijuana causing violence in states where it's become legal and basically citing reefer madness like it's a documentary film. And I was thinking about this like a month ago, like what if they're planning an expansion of the drug war to work their way into Colorado and Oregon? Some of these, you know, ironically, some of these places have sanctuary cities. Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado. Both states that have legalized. And then a few other states as well with regards to an uptick in ICE activity. And then a few other states, I believe, where they have recreational marijuana. Medical marijuana is one thing. It's the recreational marijuana that they plan to go after. And I've heard about this before as far back as a year ago. This isn't something new that's been in the consciousness of not only myself, but probably High Times Magazine. You could probably see articles from the Obama administration going, okay, the federal government, though, is at this level, and they're not doing anything about it, but they're not enforcing it, but their rules are different. They're just not going after the states yet, but their rules are technically different, and Obama never changed that. He just didn't act on certain things, but the groundwork was still there, just like executive orders, like during the swine flu that Obama passed, where the government could take over transport in the event of an emergency. He doesn't have to act on it. He's just there to pass it and hand it over. Bush didn't need to stay in power. Here you go, Obama. Obama didn't need to stay in power or do a false flag. Here you go, Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't need to stay in power. Here you go, Democrat that he'll be working with in 2020 or whoever he'll pass it off to if he's a 4-term president. So we've got North Korea. We've got more troops to Afghanistan. We've got Iran. We've got actions in Yemen that have led to the deaths of children. Okay. We have the beef with China, South China Sea. The Trump administration basically taking the same position as John Kerry. China, don't you cross this line. Hey, Taiwan, how's it going? So, Trump continues to play the fool. Everybody plays the fool. He needs to be schooled. Donald Trump needs to be diplomatic. Donald Trump is a belligerent American. The Chinese and the whole world, they start laughing at Donald Trump. Then they start making fun of Donald Trump. And the rabid aspect of the Donald Trump supporters, because I won't marginalize them all. I won't do what some of them do because they're not all the same. Some just don't know better. I don't mean that to be insulting. I'm not talking about this individual either. I respect a lot of what he does. I'm talking about a lot of the other people that I've come across that are just simply looking for the political change of today's day and age to fix things for them. And it doesn't work that way. It don't come easy. You got to work for it. And some people thought they didn't have to work for it when it came to Obama to making the world a better place. And the same thing came with Donald Trump. We're going to talk about ending these wars. We're talking about changing the economic situation that we're in our world. We should know by now that there are other avenues that we have to seek. And I'm not talking about protests either, or even a revolution. You know. Society and the people that live in the society need to start looking at each other again. They need to start talking to each other again. People in the alternative media need to work together. People shouldn't be working to tear people apart. You know, he said, she said, hey, let's create some gossip over here. I mean, look at what's going on in the streets. Study Portland, Oregon, the city that I escaped from. You got a guy basically stand up to a protester saying, don't you realize 97% of the city probably voted for Hillary Clinton? Just amazing numbers. That's another subject. What about just not even participating? And there are people on the other side that support Donald Trump that should not be intending to disrespect those and falsely call those libtards that did not have a dog in the fight. That behavior needs to stop as well. Okay? We don't need to be blocking traffic. We don't need no riots in the streets. We don't need people that didn't vote for Trump to be marginalized as terrorists that should be deported either. We need to end the madness now. Okay, we need to recognize that this is a mental illness program that knows no color, that knows no left, right. It just is. And when it goes down, holy shit, be careful with the gasoline. And there are people in our society that can be seen as true humanitarians, whether politicians are not working to bring the people together. And we can see those that seem to be placed in power and influence in the media that are working to tear us apart. You make the decision. Which voice of influence or reason you tap into. You make the decision. If you're not a robot and you're not under a spell, if you could still think for yourself, if you can remember that you have free will, then you can remain free. Spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally. From the ensuing chaos. From the fire within. But a lot of people around you, and maybe some of your friends, okay, some people are going to be in this for life, or in this for good, you know. And they're going to put all their chips, and they're going to let it ride. And you're going to see some people, you may not be one of them, but you're surely going to see some people mirror the talking points and call for war with China. And it will come from people that you thought knew better about this master plan. And you're in for a rude awakening. So I would suggest, as I wrap up my thoughts here, that you stay away from the fake conspiracy news, and it does exist. And I think you need to be honest with yourself that it exists, and it exists to throw you off the trail of looking at what's real. And I would take advantage of the quiet before the storm because it is here. I don't see an economic collapse this year. Okay, this is a long-term plan. Trump's going to spend a whole lot of money. And he might even help people get high in the meantime. Okay, before the house of cards collapses, which I don't think is going to be anytime soon. I mean the whole house of cards. I don't mean bumps in the stock market. I mean ka-chunk. It's time to start running. Grab and dash. Bug out bag. Okay. See you on channel 17, the walkie-talkie. We're going to be over oppositions. That type of stuff, there's a lot more money to be spent. Or just you wait and see. Obama got the wheels moving, by the way, with the national monuments. That's leverage on the national debt. Some people just don't realize the land under our feet has already been sold. That's why I believe the greatest battles will be fought here on American soil. And it's been a smoke screen the whole time. Look over here. Israel and the supposed chosen people of God keep us in this paradigm or subject us to those that subscribe to that paradigm. My suggestion is to use the quiet before the storm the next few years and prepare for the period after the 2020s. Okay, so subscribe to this channel if you're new. I'm going to come back with a lot more information. One thing that I'm convinced of, there's not a lot of people discussing things, shooting from the hip in the independent nature that I am. And I think that I need to be doing more of this, and that there's definitely a void that needs to be filled. So I thank you for watching, and I hope that you share this information with others that need to hear this truth.